Hello, everyone. This is Ed Breniger, and welcome to the Eddie Network podcast. My guest today is a new friend, Simon Payne, and he comes from England. And I welcome you, Simon, and uh, glad you're here. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much, Ed. I'm very, very glad to be here. My name's Simon, and I am the author of this book, which is called Be More Punk. And we'll talk about that in a second. Punk is an acronym, as you will see here, rather than
I
official.
imagine, yeah.
Yeah. So I have had so I'm a father of one. I'm really into my music, as you might tell. I'm heavily tattooed. It's another part of feature of who I am. I'm quite a family man. I love my family. I love my friends. But also I'm very passionate about the work that I do and my background. I've come from a kind of corporate background, really. I worked for some large corporations here in the UK for a number of years. I've run my own business twice, which is currently what I'm doing. And essentially, what drives me and has driven me for the last 20 years now is helping people. So whether that's in the personal development and that's coaching and supporting them in that way, personal coaching, or at work. So at work, I tend to have a different hat on, but the theme is the same. I'm there to provide training and support and coaching for teams as well and organizations. So that's kind of who I am.
So, what was it that spurred you to focus on that specific thing that you just described? It's just helping people. What was
Yeah,
it?
it's good. That's a really good question. I've been working for a company called Sainsbury's Supermarkets, so one of the largest grocery stores here in the UK.
Yeah.
And I've been there about 9 years and in a variety of commercial roles. And this one summer, they started taking us away on these away days, on these team building days, where you go away to the outdoors and you learn to build rafts and climb trees, and you do a psychometric tool. And supposedly, once you put all that back together, you go back into the office and you're much better teams and a much more focused individual. And elements of it are really good. They really are. But I found I was getting back to work and sitting next to a colleague of mine, and we were saying, why we don't get as much out of this as we thought we should. One, we weren't very outdoorsy, so that didn't really work for us. Two, we couldn't seem to relate how some of the tasks really related to the psychometric type stuff. And we kind of got back to work and just stayed the same. So we were like, oh, what's the point of this? So we began having some conversations. And what happened was we said, well, there must be something else out there. There can't be just that type of activity. So we did a little bit of research, in the vein of we'll suggest, oh no, we could do this instead. It might be something a bit different to do instead of that. And the more we looked, we just couldn't find anything that we liked the idea of. And as it happens with a lot of entrepreneurial thinking sometimes, we just thought, well, why isn't it there? And what if we filled the gap? So we began just making up plans, going down the pub, having a beer, joking about what our team building company would look like and what we would like to do and how we would launch it and how exciting it would be. And after about doing this for about a month, we decided that's what we were going to do. So we looked for some funding, um, which we got, and we both quit our jobs on the same day. And we started our company called Mind Adrenaline Limited at the time, which was a team building company and personal development and team development company, but with a slightly different take. So instead of all the outdoors, raft building, axe throwing, all the things you can do, we took a slightly more creative approach to it. And we looked to the world of TV and film for inspiration. And so that's what we did, thinking, well, there might be a few companies that like it. And we drew on shows like The Apprentice, and we drew on shows like sort of various films as well that we thought they're really good ideas that you could translate into actually people learning about themselves, but in a more creative way. So we set off with a plan to do that. And, and then 9 years later, we were still going. And it was a brilliant time. So that's what got me into the whole people side of things. We read an awful lot of books. We decided to build this thing bottom up, which was to really concentrate on why team building and why teams need to perform better and the benefits to an organization to do so. So I think getting under the skin of it, the theory, and then seeing it in action and seeing the results we were getting, that just set me off on a real path. And when the company came to its kind of natural end, because eventually the market was pretty flooded with companies just like ours, there really wasn't a place for us anymore. We closed the business down, and I went back to work, but I went and focused solely on people development. And talent development, and that's what's got me into it, really.
Fantastic. Oh, I love it. And what you've described is exactly what I've experienced. And it makes me think, well, maybe I should quit what I'm doing and go back in and work for a business where I'm doing people development because that's exactly what is needed. And it's an interesting pathway that you've come kind of full circle in a sense to find yourself doing it today. I mean, so I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it was, I think I went back to work for a little while. So, but doing exactly what I was doing. So I was still coaching and building teams and more from a leadership perspective now. So I was working with small teams, executives, and worked within the insurance industry for about 5 years, but in quite an entrepreneurial company again. So I got to be quite creative and flexible in my approach. And but it kept me on the path of just helping people. I like to have an impact. Okay, I think that's what I've learned about myself most is that, and when I say have an impact, not from an ego perspective that I get something from it, I like to see people change. I like to see teams grow. I like to see people grow. I like to see them motivated. I get a real kick from that. It really works for me. And what happened sort of next was I'd kind of come to the end of that part of my sort of career and was feeling a bit jaded, I think, a bit jaded by the my own industry. So the learning and development industry,
Hmm.
particularly in the UK, felt a bit jaded. The same old kind of we were still using a lot of methodologies and theories from the 60s. Things hadn't really moved on at the pace I felt they should, because I felt organizations and people in general were moving forward way faster than the models associated with developing these people.
Yes.
So I was getting a bit frustrated, and I came across um, something called Agile People. It's a book written by Pia Maria Toren, who's a Swedish author, and she wrote this book and called Agile People, and I read it, and I was like, "That's it. This is the future of work. There is someone out there thinking like that." And I thought, "That's what do I do about it?" Because what I want to do is kind of kick against that. I want to kick against the old kind of grey, boring trainer stands at the front and dictates what you're going to learn. And I
Right.
said, there's got to be a different way to do it. And so that's how punk came into fashion, into life really, because I thought I want something that does want to challenge the status quo and um, be more colourful and be more noisy. And so that's how the business came about 6 years ago. To really say, look, there is a different way to do things. We can motivate our staff in different ways. There's a future way of working, and this is how you do it. So that's what kind of brought me into that's how it went full circle and brought me to Be More Punk and the book.
What I found, and I think this um, is what you found in a certain way, was that the people wanted to grow. They wanted to do things that had a meaningful connection. They wanted to do things that were meaningful. They wanted their work to have clear values. They wanted their relationships at work to have respect and trust. I mean, they wanted all these things. But what was getting in the way was actually how the businesses were structured. And the structure was getting in the way of them being people. And so what I'm hearing you describe is a way of getting, not so much getting around that, but beginning to give to the people kind of a renewed sense of agency that they can do things that they did not realize, but maybe they have permission to now, or something of that sort.
Yeah, yeah, very good, Ed. Yeah, absolutely. So I use PUNK as an acronym. Okay. So, and it stands for people using their nous and know-how to improve their personal lives or their work lives. Because one of the things I think gets lost in an organization is people get put in boxes. They're their job description, they're the job that they do. Whereas we know we are far more than that, right? We've got our personal lives, we've got our hobbies, we've got our loves, we've got our loathes, we've got our past, we've got the things we want to achieve. And I don't think that's harnessed in most businesses. So there's a phrase they use within the agile world, this a T-shaped person. So this T-shaped person is that you have, down the middle is the T, is the long bit. That's your kind of deep expertise. But then across the top here is all the broader aspects of who you are. And if we are able to understand all of that at the same time, we have different employees. We have like we can have different ways we can move them around the business, and they can do different types of work. We have a different kind of resource now to think about, and we have and then different ways to motivate them and keep them happy at work. So you're absolutely right. It is a way to sort of circumnavigate the standard structure and leadership behaviors. However, you still need to work within those, right? So what I'm trying to do is to say, from a leadership perspective, what do you need your organization to achieve? Not often it's profit and it's money, isn't it? I mean, that's the old that's the standard response. Because they want a nice, happy organization as well. However, it's about making money. So what I do is align it with what they are trying to actually achieve and say, well, look, your people are still fundamental to you, that successful bottom line and profit. They just are. No matter how much AI is coming in at the moment, your people are still there. These are the small things you can do to allow them to work better and differently and in a more human way that supports what you are trying to achieve. So, but how that works is that from a leadership perspective, you're talking to them, we're talking about numbers. We're talking about what do you want to achieve? What's the bottom line? What's the turnover? What's the profit? What are the operating costs you want to reduce? All the really tangible stuff that they get and they have to focus on and they're targeted on. But then on the people side of it, who might not be as closely related to that, or will have an understanding, what do they want? All the things you just said, Ed. They want good relationships at work. They want to feel respected. They want to feel empowered. They want to have a career path. It's the human side against the business side. They do work together. You just got to find the right language for both parties to get it to working together.
So tell us again what punk means. How
People it's people using nous and know-how. So nous is an interesting word. So now have you know the word nous? Nous.
no.
No, I think it's maybe it's quite English. I don't know. So people using P.U. Nous N.K know-how. Nous is a it's a word that means intuition.
Uh, so is it a
It's like
derivative of knowledge,
intuition.
of know,
Yeah,
of, of, of something?
of knowing maybe. Yeah, yeah. It's that intuition. It's that part. It's the things with it that make us. human, common sense, being
Yeah.
intuitive,
I
have
like
inside
that.
you that as you go through life, you learn and yeah.
So I see all kinds of positive things here,
Mm.
and I see how it is an emergent an awareness that you have because of all the things you've done over your career, which I think is a story that's worth telling. I mean, you're telling it today, but the fact that you've done so many different things, I think is to your credit, and it showed that you were agile in the sense that you recognized it in a sense you were always in transition. You're always changing. You're always trying something new, and I commend you for
Yeah.
that because not a lot of people feel comfortable in doing that. So there was something in your background which gave you that sense of freedom to be able to go wherever the the now tell sent you, if we can use that word.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like that. So so it's a very apt thing for this time in human history.
Mm.
So my question is, and I'm going to frame this in terms of a conversation I had last week with a man who's the president of a manufacturing company. And I just we just happened to be sitting at dinner, and I asked him. I said, "So what do you think is how are y'all using AI, and what do you think its effect will be on your company?" And he said, "Well, we see that it'll streamline a lot of things, that we can do things a lot faster. We'll have better information flow, all that, and we will have fewer employees, and we can take that money that we would be paying for employees and use it in other ways. And so there's a financial benefit that is coming, a significant one, because we won't have as many people working for us." And I said, "Okay, yeah, well, that's very interesting." And our conversation really didn't go anywhere after that. But but I'm wondering, in the context of that sort of description, how does
Mm.
what you're doing fit into a company's strategy about deploying AI?
Mm. Yeah, very good. Hmm. So I have a very specific view on this. No one's going to stop the AI train.
Right.
It's coming and it's here already. However, I s- I think the level of genuine understanding of how to use it is still quite low.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think that presents risk.
Hmm.
So by thinking AI will replace intelligence, intuition, how the brain works, how a person works, the emotional aspects of that, I think aren't really truly understood. So I agree that I think when it comes to workflows and information, and there's going to be there is work that can be automated and should be automated.
Right.
Okay. And unfortunately, I think that will affect roles. Okay. It probably will and is already. So there is a case for that. But what I don't think people are understanding is when these people are gone and you have the cash, but you no longer have the human side affecting how things work, what's the impact of that? And I think, secondly, there's also something missing with AI, which is not just around the ethical use of it. So, how do you use it properly? What are the ethics behind that? But again, the the human and emotional side of knowing when to say, is that right? Do
Hmm.
we need to double check it? When does a human step in and when do we let the machine do the work? And this comes from my own experience as well. So I've built a number. I've been quite. I've been using AI for at least 2 years. Um, Really significantly this year, as all the LLMs have come on in such leaps and bounds. And I've been developing my own coaching. I've got a coaching tool based on my own personality that matches with the book. So you can buy the book and get a link to chat with Sid, and chat with Sid's a version of me. But what was really interesting in that build was, within an hour, you can get one of the LLMs to say, this is how you build a chatbot. And you can deploy it. You can press the button, you can deploy it. But if it's a coaching one, in my eyes, what am I doing? I've got to make sure, how is it phrasing things? What questions will it ask? How will it listen? What emotions does it know to show or not to show? What guardrails does it put in place? What if someone takes it down the wrong route and it continues going down that way? How do I get it to stop? So this isn't programming. This is how a human works. And so I've had to learn to build all of this stuff in, and it's doing a really, really good job. It's still not me. So I think it's, I don't think we really appreciate what is being lost when we lose people. That's a classic example there. We're going to have lots of money spare, but what have you lost? And the other side of it is, if you are using it, how are you using it? And where is the human touch point to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing?
I have a little sentence that I use a lot, and it came to me because of um, working a lot with people in the lower echelons of a business, um, whether it's a large business or a small business. But you know, when when I was consulting full time, I wouldn't just talk with the CEO or the owner or I would talk to everybody, and they understood that. And what I found was there's this persistent residual culture of values that persists because it resides in the relationships of the people. And I don't think, and in saying that, I don't think we have ever truly grasped what the nature of relationships truly are in a business oriented context. And because of that, we have, I think, caused businesses and organizations to function at a lower level of productivity than would be possible if we did a better job with the relational aspects of the
Mm.
company.
Mm, yeah, it's the question, why do people go to work?
Is it just for a paycheck?
Yes, okay, they go, is it just for a paycheck? But the evidence that I see when I'm working with organizations is some of them might, I was working for a company recently, and they hadn't had a pay rise for 3 years. And I said, well, why do you stay? And they said, because of the people,
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
the people around me. I like working here. But you're actually, the balance, the equity here isn't quite right. You're not really getting, but it is an equity. So the relationships actually, you're right, it matters. It matters to people. Mm. And so what's interesting with sort of the work that I do is that often I'm brought in a little too late because the relationships are breaking.
Uh-huh.
They're either breaking between the
Yeah.
managers and the leaders and the managers and the people below them. And then they're saying, oh, we've got a communication problem. You haven't. You've got a relationship problem. There's no transparency. There's no honesty. It's all been fragmented. And so then what? And the thing is, with that sort of fragmentation, bureaucracy can really jump in there. It really takes over. And with that fragmentation, you get inertia as well, and that's another big hidden um, issue that, again, I don't think organisations always see. The inertia that creeps in, stop people moving forward because they just don't quite know how. or don't think they should. So yeah, it's relationships. And again, if we think about that, what are we talking about here? We're human beings. We're not machines. And unfortunately, or fortunately, that's a good business needs to just keep remembering that. You're working with complex, highly complex emotional beings here. Annoying as that is, I'm sure.
So, we're what we're talking about is a world that's in transition, and the people who design the technology believe they already know what that transition leads to. I don't believe their perspective is broad enough or deep enough or clear enough to make any kind of statement about tomorrow, much less 10 years or 100 years from now. Um, but what I do see is that if you take, I don't know, let's say we take 10% of the workforce out of their jobs. And in America, that would be um, what's 10% of 300 million? 3 million people, let's say,
Mm,
just a round number, round number. So what are those 3 million people going to do? Because they have mortgages, they have car payments, they have children that are in school,
mm,
they're still paying off their student loans. They they have commitments that are made to to places where they're giving philanthropically. I mean, and so we got these 3 million people who are all of a sudden they have been set free from the old structures.
mm.
And the question is, how can we take punk and help them to create the next iteration of organizations that exist?
Yeah, it's very it is interesting that actually the world's moving at such a pace, but the systems behind it are not. It's still the same. Our monetary system, our political systems. So these people are being pulled out and saying you still need to function in the system, even though it's changed. So
Yeah.
yes, it's a significant problem. So I think what I try and talk about in the book, so there's is a number of sort of punk principles. I've got six punk principles that I talk about, and I think from a um, from a personal perspective, the book works in two ways. You can kind of read through it with a "this is about me" lens, or you can read it with a "this is about me at work" lens. Okay, so it and a lot of it draws on my experience. It's almost semi-autobiographical in a way. A lot of the stories I tell about how I've experienced it and overcome it.
Yeah.
And it's not theory; it's what I've done. um, and I think in that example, what is going to be easier for some than others is that we have to remember the value and the level of experience and what we've got inside of us isn't lost because that job's gone. That job has gone. You are still the same person. And even in that job, you had way more experience and skill before you got into it. So I think the sad thing about people's jobs going is to find a way for them to be able to recenter themselves a bit and say, right, that was then. It is a new world. Who am I now? Who can I be now? What can I do? And
Yeah.
even personally for myself, I've had so many challenges where I thought, well, this isn't, redundancy. I've been made redundant twice in my working career, and you get it really hurts, and it really kills your confidence, and it takes time to rebuild that. But I think now I often say when people get made redundant, please find some, if you can, find some time just to reset yourself. Think about who you are, what your values are, where you want to work, what work you want to do. You know, what sort of work, how much money do you really need to earn for what? So you so I think and like even I said personally, going through redundancy, I've come out the other side and gone, well, where do I go next? Sometimes it's really hard to see that, and sometimes it's not. And that's what the book does. The book allows you to look at a number of scenarios and ask yourself questions. And it's a very honest book, and in some ways it's quite brutal because I really do want you to hold a mirror up to yourself and ask yourself some really serious questions about how you've got to a certain place in your life. And I practice what I preach. I do the same myself. So I say, be yourself. Very easy, worn out trope, really, be yourself. But for me, it's about just becoming that version of you that you like. It's as simple as that. You don't have to chase after one of the gurus and become them. You don't have to be that manager everyone thinks you want to be. Just try and be someone you want to be. So yeah, so that's kind of
I,
how it comes.
well, what I would add to that is that we need people who are close to us to be in relationship to us to say, this is who I see you to be. Because if it's just us telling ourselves, well, you were this or you were that, then I think we can still get lost in isolation, in the isolation that comes from it. So I think it's not one or the other. It's both and that
Yeah.
somehow, and one of the phenomenons I see having taken place over the last several years, and I think it's a definitively a response to the COVID crisis, is all of these groups that meet for conversation every week. And they're all kind
Mm,
of different. They all have their own little way of doing it. In some cases they have a little model that they're following, or they have an agenda. In some cases they check in and there's nothing more than what are we going to talk about today, and everybody's kind of telling what's happened over the week. But it's conversation, building relationships, and I think it's really valuable. And I see that as kind of a stage one. The second stage is, well, what if we were, quote, what if we were to go do something together? What would that look like?
mm,
And
mm,
and I see what you're doing and what you've done in the past is a way of helping people find that way of coming together so that they can do something together. And it may be that they do this totally within the proximity of their own neighborhood or their own town or city,
mm.
but they're still doing something together.
You're right. It's a lot of the book is about, I start it off by saying it's a long list of people. So I couldn't have written this without all these people.
Right. There you go.
I just couldn't do it. And I think where the book is, it's kind of because it's not about being nice, the book. It's more about being in your face a little bit. But it's about a lot of it is about permission. I think we worry so much about things, either in work or in our lives. And it's saying, look, you had permission to get together and talk about things, come up with some ideas, think about something have something you think is a ridiculous idea. Talk about it. It's okay. Ask better questions. So it's yeah, it is very much. I think we need to feel open, more open. I mean, one of the things I think um one of the things that's most important to me personally, is I'd like to see more compassion in the world. I'd like us to understand everyone a lot better and be prepared to, outside of our own sort of value systems. Because I think it's that breaking down of barriers. I think we are really trapped in our own worlds nowadays, our own world that could be our household and our beliefs within that household. I don't know we're sharing enough. So bringing people together, that relationships part, yeah, it's vital.
Yeah.
it's vital in your personal life, it's vital at work. So yeah, yeah.
So what what's your how do I ask this question? I'm curious about how you're promoting the book. I know you're on my podcast today. You know, you're promoting the book. Um, and I've had other people on, not so much because, I mean, I didn't know about your book until 5 minutes before, I looked
Yeah.
at the, anyway, but I was interested in you. I'm interested in talking to you. And so how are you communicating the book to the world? What's your thoughts on that and your approach?
So so the book was released in January, and then um over that period of time, I've kind of, I built a website all around me. I've got my own merchandise because I've also got a bit of a punk, um, attitude towards our politics and our world. So there's a lot of stuff on there as well. So the website is one thing. I do a lot of work. I do a lot on LinkedIn because it's an important platform for me for two reasons. One, I like to work with organisations, and I believe we can do better. You know, but secondly, it can be a very bit of an echo chamber of fakeness and stuff. So I'm trying to bring a bit more truth and honesty into how you feel and what you can do about it. So I do that. Um, of course, being punk, I couldn't not do live events. So I will have a live event coming up on LinkedIn quite soon about being anti-OK. So that's going to be, and then we're working towards doing an entire day of live music, punk bands talking about the book and getting it out there. So, and then equally, I'm trying to do more podcasts, and I'm trying to do some pieces for a variety of different trade magazines that sort of fit where I am. So yeah, so it's kind of, I think I've taken a bit of time to get to the point where I need to get out there. In the last month or so, it's been getting out there and beginning to I don't want to use, what's the word? Pushing against the status quo a bit. And
Good thing.
yeah, I want to start a rebellion. I mean, that's what I'd love to do.
Well, I mean, you're a punk rocker. Yeah, I mean, you're a punk rocker basically, and it was pushing against every cliche that existed, and and I've known some of those guys, and they're even in their what would be the word idiosyncratic craziness. They're still normal people. I, I think that obviously people who are in the generation where punk music was a big thing are going to be attracted to this, and I think that's a really good thing because they're not only going to be people who may be in a middle or an upper levels of management in companies, but they're also going to have children who are coming along, or maybe even grandchildren at this point. So I think it's an interesting placement of it's an interesting context placement to talk about punk in this day and age because it does harken back to an age of much more radical and much more edgy and I think we could use that in a
Yeah.
positive sense.
Yeah, you're not the first to say it. I've had a couple of conversations with people recently, and they've used the word zeitgeist, that
Yeah,
we're right here. We are experiencing a lot about the world and the world of work that is doesn't feel right anymore. And whether that's because I think we're just waking up a bit. I don't think we're waking up enough. I think we need to be a lot more, you know, I might say the word woke, but we need to be awake. And I think it's coming out more and more and more. I see it more and more.
Do you know any
And it's interesting you say that, yeah, sure, there's people of my age.
do you know any
Go
do
on.
you know any punk rockers from the golden age of punk rock?
What, as in, what, know them personally?
Yeah.
No.
It would only take one who would endorse your book.
Yeah.
Because it's a tight social cultural grouping because it's a very unique form of music.
It's a good point.
It's
Yeah.
very
I
style,
mean,
and therefore, if I don't know, it's not my style of music, so I never listened to it. So I don't even know who I'm pointing to. But but I think if you could find one of them to endorse your book, and they could do a little video with you or something, I think it would be fantastic,
I
and
think you're right.
it would
Yeah.
push against every meme that is going on in the world today, which is the past is dead and nothing matters in the past, and you got to conform to whatever it is the meme is for today. And no, you'd
Yeah.
you'd be really separating yourself in the marketplace, which is what marketers have to do.
Yeah, it's weird. There's so much I need to be doing with, you can't have a. I mean, just the color of it and how it all works and the vibrancy. Um, I've got to start getting it out there, and
So
I
where can
started. Yeah,
people find the book? Where can people find the book?
you can find it on my own website, which is www.bemorepunk.rocks. ROCKS. Um, it was recently banned by Amazon.
Band?
Banned. Yes. So I have a banned book on Amazon.
How
So
come?
basically, what happened was I launched it on Amazon and they pulled it after about 2 months and said they didn't agree with the content. There's some swearing in there, but nothing. I've read way worse books with swearing in. You can still buy Mein Kampf as an example. So they banned it, and they wouldn't provide me with the evidence of why. So I never knew. But it's brilliant marketing to have a punk book banned by Amazon. However, I think if you go on there, somehow, because I'm with a new publisher, they've managed to go through the back door and get it back on there again. So I think it's on Amazon as well. Yeah. But yeah, so it's been an interesting couple of months with Amazon as well. And
And
not only with that,
all
yeah.
these are stories, or these are stories that prove your point.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when it happened, I was slightly annoyed. And then I thought, hang on a minute. It's just great. So, but yeah, so you don't want anything that's going to challenge your status quo. How interesting. Yeah.
And I don't see how, I mean, this is, anyway, it's beyond me at this point. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish you well. Let me ask you one, before I close, let me ask you one more question. As you look forward as to where I mean, anyone who's written a book has some sense of where we are in time.
Hmm.
Okay. As you look forward, do you have hope for the future? And if so, where do you find that hope coming from?
Hmm. Where do I find the hope? I
If you
think
have hope, I mean, I think, I mean, I've had people on who have said they don't have hope. So, so
I yeah, I do despair at the way the state of the world. Um, I do. It is challenging. Um, and we are being held down by all sorts of whether I don't even think that I think we just know it's like an oppression globally on us as human beings. And some days you can wake up and it's really hard to see it have any hope at all. But what I've learned is that one, there are way more than us than them. And two, we individually, we can't change everything in the world. But if we look at the one little bit we want to change and we can change and we can affect, it's a start. So I've tried to do that. Instead of letting the weight of the world crush me and say, the planet, politics, the state of just so much going on, the horror that is repeated infinitum on every news channel, just to keep us, you know, boxed in. That's not the whole world. And so I'm going out every day to do my 1% change. If I can start changing things by 1%, whether that's one person, one change of mindset, someone else thinking slightly differently, showing more compassion, I think if we can all do that, I think the world would be a better place.
Well said. I totally agree with you. And what I like about that is you began with despair and then ended with there's things we can go do. And I think
Yeah.
that's the two things that need to go together. And we need to tell people that when we hear them despairing of the future, I say, well, it's all dependent upon us doing something, one thing. If 3
Yeah.
million or 30 billion or 300 billion people were to do something as you have just described, then we would see change happening in a way that we would not have anticipated. But it's another way of that T person, that T identity,
Mm.
um,
Mm.
finding its way into everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a challenge, but you do have to have hope. And yeah, because what's the alternative?
Well, I would say that there is no alternative, but that people think there are. But I would also say that it's your sense of hope is not cannot be based on what you see on this screen here. And it can't be based
Mm.
on what is happening in a global sense that you have no control over. Where you find hope is in what is it I can do with my neighbor or my family, with my coworker? What little thing can we do together and then do it again or do something else?
Mm.
But we keep doing things together. And I think that's
Mm.
where we can begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is not an oncoming train, but actually a dawn of a new era.
Yeah. 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 It just need to be, we need to be more, not, we don't need to be connected. We need to be connected
Yeah, I agree.
as human beings. It's just got to start doing that. And if we can find a way to do it through this, it's just fine.
We can
But
do it. I mean,
we
you and I
can,
are doing it right now.
yeah,
And
yeah.
well, you see, this is the countermeasure to most podcasts and most social media presentations. They're talking heads, but they're not. It's all scripted. Everybody
Mm.
knows what's
Yeah,
the topic
yeah,
is going to
yeah,
be, and everybody knows what they're going to say, and everybody is in alignment and agreement that this is what we're going to do.
yeah,
And here we
yeah.
are meeting for the first time and having this kind of meeting of the minds to say, okay, this is what is possible for us in the future.
Mm. And it's brilliant that, we've gone from just an introduction to a brief view of who I am, and then the book, to actually, in reality, our purpose is slightly is deeper than that. You know, I didn't write a book just to sell loads of books. I
Oh, I know.
obviously wrote a book.
It's too
So
much
yeah,
effort that goes into it.
yeah,
So the last thing I want to say is
mm,
I hope these public events that you want to do will happen, and I hope that they will stir something in people, not necessarily that you would ever know about, but it stirs something in them where they go do something.
yeah.
And I think that's what's possible. And I love the idea of what you're talking
That's
about.
great. That's wonderful. Thank you. I've really enjoyed today, and thank you for, really being able to just draw out such um, genuine feelings and thoughts. It's been really good.
I find this every day with people, and um, and it inspires me. Um, it inspires me because what I see, and this is where I find hope. You know, I could meet 10 Simon Paynes today or this week, and they'd all be different than you, but they'd all have something very similar to you that is worth zeroing in on and affirming and appreciating and say, you need to go do that. And I
Mm.
see that's what you've already made those steps. So I wish you well in the book. I wish you well on the other things you want to do. And 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 this will be the last thing. And just because maybe you're not getting very much feedback on it, um, doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do. Because the public doesn't know what it wants until it gets what it needs.
That's and yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's again, thank you again, because I think I am at that point where I'm here. More and more people are backing me and saying you're doing the right thing. Keep going. And every time I hear that, it's just that slight little push in the back again to keep that momentum going. So I'm really thankful for it. Thank you. Yeah, it's great. Great to know.
So I'm turning away from you and I'm going to talk to my audience. I want you to look at this man and what he's done. And he took a step, took several steps, and has been creating things. And no one invited him to do this. He was not employed to go do this. He did this out of his own sense of purpose and a sense of ingenuity. And I'm pointing to Simon, and I'm not trying to embarrass you, but what I'm saying is that you all can do this too. He, you're 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 special, you're unique, but you're not special. We're all the same speciality. So think about what it is that you could start doing that's really small, but would have meaning to some people that may feel that they're ignored or excluded, whatever it may be, and go do it. And if you start something like that and it begins to have some traction, reach out to me and we'll have a conversation. But it needs to be something that you can say, I am doing this. You have to be able to say, I am doing this because this is important. And when you can say that, and that's what he told us that today. I mean, this is what he's telling us. When you can do that, um, you're onto something, and it may be the way you save your existence after you find that you have been reduced in force by the company that you've worked for 25 years, which is going to happen to many people. So this is the antidote to insignificance. How's that? How's that? Okay. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time here on the Eddie Network podcast. Bye bye.